Number 5.
All right, as I said, this one might be a bit of a stretch, but I'm going to do it anyway. My number 5 most intriguing Seahawk is Derick Hall. Intriguing, not best. Remember, this is not a countdown of the 5 best or 20 best Seahawks, because I don't know whether Derick Hall would be number 5 on that list, but he's a lot higher on the intriguing factor because he has the opportunity to go from good to great in his 3rd year in the league and start to change the narrative of what this defense does off the edge. He knows it. Mike Macdonald knows that going good to great is exactly what you're hoping for from Derick Hall right now.
He's a great football player, and I think he's really rounded his kind of rush repertoire out, where he has the complements to the power rush game, which is so potent, and then he's an asset force on the edge. I mean, he's an enforcer out there, and like the NFL run game nowadays is like C gap. You gotta dominate the C gap, and he's the one to do it.
Yeah, so interesting, right? You ask about whether or not he can go from good to great, and I think in my mind that means getting sacks. That means double-digit sacks. That means being a force coming off the edge on 3rd downs and pass rushing situations. But that's not where Mike Macdonald went. He went right to stopping the C gap. He went right to stopping the run. And guess what? When asked, hey, what did you learn in year 2? Where can you grow in year 3? Guess what Derick Hall himself said?
Yeah, I think, as always, it's my motto, like I play hard. So, it was good to go out, be able to have that experience, start playing well. I feel like run is my key, so being able to set the edge on the run and then being able to be powerful and, make those plays in the pass game as well. I feel like that's what I did really well, and what I need to grow on again is the details, man. Like, that's that jump from, an 8-sack year to a 10, 12, 14-sack year, being able to hone in on the details, find little tidbits of things that you can find to be able to grow from. So I think that was huge with the review and going looking back on my year.
Yeah, so interesting, right? He kind of starts off with the ability to stop the run and set an edge, but then, to go from 8 to 12 sacks. Don't you want Derick Hall to be a 12-sack guy? Don't you want Derick Hall to be a double-digit sack guy? Because if he is, it makes everything else you're doing so much easier. It helps determine what you want to do with Boye Mafe. It helps if Nwosu isn't able to contribute much again this year. It helps if DeMarcus Lawrence at this stage in his career is really more of a run stopper and an edge setter than he is a pass rusher. It helps if Leonard Williams, they start to key on him a little bit more in the interior of the defensive line after his big sack season last year. And if Byron Murphy is, again, more of a run plugger than a pass rusher, Derick Hall's got all the skills. He's got the body type. He's got the ability to do that, the talent. Now, can he turn it into, actually getting it done out there? Leonard Williams is, as one of the veterans in that room, believes that he has grown.
I would just say play recognition. Last year, he had a great season, but I think a lot of it was just playing off of his athleticism and his natural ability, whereas now I'm seeing a shift from, being a young guy into a vet, where he's like calling stuff out pre-snap, and I think that's going to take his game to the next level for sure.
Well, so make that happen. Take his game to the next level, and then it really comes down to this, Boye Mafe versus Derick Hall situation, and who's going to pop first. 2 guys taken in the 2nd round, roughly around the same spot in the draft, 1 year apart. And I'm not sour on Mafe. It's just that he's had an extra year to get to that great level, and he's still, to me, in the very good spot. So who pops this year? I asked Brady that question a while ago.
Boy, I've seen some good things from Derick Hall, and I think it's interesting that that DeMarcus Lawrence has really seemed to taken like a liking to him. And we heard, I think it was who was it? Jaron Reed maybe say that he kind of described them as kindred spirits. And I asked him, what he means by that. He said they're sort of the same player. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, they're both crazy as hell. They both kind of play with that dog mentality, like hair on fire, just frenetic style of play.
Yeah, so put all that together, and he is the 5th most intriguing Seahawk. If he pops, this defense will continue to pop. So he is very much a guy that I'll have my eyes on over the course of this season. That is your number 5 most intriguing Seahawk. 4 left to go.
Number 4.
Number 4 most intriguing Seahawk is the rookie Nick Emmanwori. He was not the first pick they made this year, but he was the 2nd and was very nearly the first, very nearly taken in the 1st round. And because of the position he plays, because I think we'll see him a lot more, not necessarily on the field, but it's just a lot more evident what a guy like him is doing than what Gray Zabel is doing. He's maybe not more important than Gray Zabel, but I think more intriguing, and one of the more intriguing guys because of the positional versatility, because of the size and speed combo, and because, let's face it, Mike Macdonald has used guys like him before in really incredible ways. Albert Breer, who we mentioned earlier in the show, joined us a couple of weeks ago, Brock, and after Sam Darnold says, quite frankly, Emmanwori is the second biggest storyline because he could be Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, I think like seeing the way Mike Macdonald's defense, I'm really fascinated with Emmanwori because that safety position and the defense with the Ravens. So if you go back and Mike Macdonald learned from Wink Martindale, when Wink Martindale became the coordinator with the Ravens, they rebuilt their defense, and the key guy in rebuilding their defense was Eric Weddle. And it was Eric Weddle was the heady guy who we're going to empower the players. And so the offense is doing so much to change, to give the quarterback latitude to change plays and use the whole play clock. We're going to empower. We're going to have a heady safety out there, and we're going to empower him. And that became Kyle Hamilton. So Weddle, Hamilton, and now, like, can Emmanwori be that guy for the Seahawks?
Maybe not right away. I think that's probably a lot to ask, but
Julian Love right away.
Yeah, I mean, Julian Love is doing a lot of that already. But okay, if he doesn't need to do all that, can he just go out and use his physical strength and speed to just make plays? And Mike knows and recognizes that that's pretty important right now.
We keep giving him stuff, and he just keeps executing. And you have to be careful that you don't take the playmaker out of the player. So that's something that, is kind of on my mind. But he just keeps learning and keeps executing and keeps making plays. He's got great enthusiasm, and anytime you got a coaching point for him, he's very receptive towards it. And I mean, we've said this kind of ad nauseum here, but he's just a really, really fun player to coach. And the vets in the room are doing a great job with him too. Julian, Kobe, those guys. It's a good group.
I think it's that last comment right before the thing about the vets that stands out to me. He's a fun player to coach. And I think because of that, he's going to be a fun player to watch and an intriguing player. In fact, the number 4 most intriguing Seahawk this year.
Well, that, again, pendulum swings both ways. When he says we can't take the playmaker out of the player, there's kind of you could do it 2 different ways. You could be so basic, like, I just want this guy out there, and we're going to keep it so simple that you don't really put him in positions to make plays and blitz and do all the things and read and react. Or the other side of it is you're asking him to do and play at the level that Julian and Kobe and these guys have played at with their years together. That, man, you gotta do this, and then you gotta adjust to this, and you gotta do this on the fly, and right. So you can kind of sting the playmaker on both sides of that thing. So the fine balance, that's what's intriguing, is how is Mike going to balance that out? Not put too much on him, but not simplify it so much, and really let those rare gifts come to life. And then will they? I mean, are we going to feel 4.3 and a 45-inch vert? I mean, like, you thought Titus hit that kid pretty hard, Saul. Can you imagine if Titus ran a 4.3 and had a 45-inch vert and that much power and dynamic athleticism?
He doesn't run a 4.3?
Hit that kid? No, he doesn't run 4.3.
Not yet.
No, not yet. No.
Yeah, no, all of that,
ever.
Brock, is all part of it. And if he hits and hits early, I mean, like, this is a whole different defense, right? I mean, he is really the big addition to this defense. They didn't change a lot. DeMarcus Lawrence will be there, but for the most part, this defense can look pretty similar to how it did last year. He's the one real upgraded weapon, and if they can use him in a variety of different ways and get him to the quarterback, get him to set an edge, get him to hit in the secondary, get him to take the ball away, as we saw a few times. Like, yeah, like there's a lot of possibilities for him, and he could absolutely change the upside potential of this defense, which is already pretty high. So,
number 3.
The number 3 most intriguing Seahawk is Klint Kubiak. I know he's not going to be playing on the field, but I think we've certainly made exceptions before for incredibly intriguing people who are not necessarily players. Klint Kubiak is in the microscope, man. The eye of Sauron is on him directly, as it has been forever since the people of Seattle have really believed in an offensive coordinator. It didn't go well last year with Ryan Grubb. It didn't go well the previous few years with Shane Waldron. I guess maybe Schottenheimer was the last one, but even he had his ups and downs. Before that, you're talking Darrell Bevel, and dude, it's been a while. And by all accounts, he's doing exactly what Mike Macdonald wants him to do. And that's, to me, what makes him most intriguing. Can he just do what the coach wants? Because it feels like that's been a problem for the last, half decade, where the coach just isn't getting his way in terms of the style of offense that he wants played. And they need to be a complementary piece to the defense that is supposed to be the highlight of this team. Well, who understands that? It sure seems like Klint Kubiak does. And the person in the media who seems to understand it best is Chris Long, who said this on the Greenlight podcast.
He talks about wanting to contribute to the complementary football. You ask an offensive coordinator a lot of times, like, what do you want out of this season? It's like, yeah, pew, 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 verticals, or like whatever. That wasn't even the OC. That was Gannon speaking for their offense. But, hey, we want to do this. We want to do that. For Kubiak, the first thing that seemed to come out of his mouth most times I read his quotes was like, we want to fit in. We want to be a part of this identity that coach is building, and we don't want to f it up. You don't want to make it sound as simple or as like, if last year was really ambitious, you don't want to make the strategy this year sound kind of like short-sighted, but it seems like trading a little bit of the high ceiling for a high floor and stabilizing.
I totally agree with all of that. It is finding a way to complement this defense, which means keeping the ball on the ground. It means keeping the ball for long drives, sustainability, not turning the ball over, not going 3 and out with no time coming off the clock. And it means a physical brand of football that fits in with what the defense and what Mike Macdonald wants. What we've seen in Baltimore, what we've seen in Detroit the last few years. Mike Macdonald clearly envies that and wants that and desires it. So can he deliver on it? It sure looked that way in the second preseason game where we got to see the starters play. And if that continues into the season with the fullbacks and the style of running attack and what they've done with the offensive line, great. That would be really tremendous. Now, that's not the entire job, though, of the offensive coordinator. You can't just be old school and just run the ball over and over again. You got to build a passing game on top of it, and it's got to be a modern passing game. It's not going to have some of the fanciness that you'll see elsewhere, but Jake Bobo says it's still super effective, and he explains why.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are going to see it, but it's really cool what Kubes is doing. I mean, he's marrying up, at least for just receivers. We're on the same path for the first 10 yards of a play, whether we're running outside zone or we're running boot action, play action off of it. So I obviously have not been in their shoes, but I think that's really difficult on a defense. DBs, especially safeties that are getting cracked all game, then all of a sudden you're going to boot action off of it. You're going to run a deep in route off of that same route stem. I think that puts defenses in a bind. It puts linebackers in a bind. So it's been really cool to kind of explore that in Kubes' scheme so far. But obviously we've got further steps we want to take, and we'll continue to do that.
Put it all together, Brock, and this is a guy who is going to be watched and discussed throughout the entirety of this year. If he can take this offensive line and an offense that no one around the league seems to think is going to do much and actually run the ball, actually pound it, actually do what they did in that second preseason game, the Seahawks are going to be good. They're going to be a good team. And in some ways, he may be the biggest pivot in all of that.
I think that's well said. I think he absolutely is one of the most intriguing. I think he would tell you that it is not just about me, and not from just a humble, standpoint, Salk is still a young guy, 11 years into the league. But this is bringing John Becton. This is bringing Rick Dennison. This is bringing the QB coach, Janako. This is bringing all the resources around him. So it's not about him. It's not about just him, Ryan Grubb.
That's true.
Trying to teach everybody else.
But he is the guy that sort of...
Oh, he's at the tip of the spear. There's no
right.
question. And he's got to be the play caller and the designer. And, yeah, he's been around. He's kind of at a sweet spot in his career, too. He's kind of at that age and stage where, hey, man, this goes really well for me. You know what the next step is, right? That's to be one of these young whippersnapper head coaches. And he's got the support around him, the staff around him, a complimentary defense. It's wonderful to say play complimentary ball, but you need the peanut butter and the jelly. And they've got the peanut butter on the defensive side. Now they got to be the jelly to bind it all together.
Last part of it is the concern that maybe, again, that it's not just old school, that it's Stone Age. And JSN on this cut here with Fred Taylor, as they're talking about Ken Walker, explains that that's not it at all.
I get that call all the time.
Yeah.
I've talked to Kay so many times. Just an amazing kid, like Bijan, right? And he can really get to it, but he's a little bit in the shadows, being tucked away, in this market. But when they figure it out,
oh man,
it'll be too late then, because he can really go.
Yeah. He's our bread and butter, and I'm excited to see him Charbonnet as well.
You got a new offense.
We do.
You're gonna be more on the under center.
Yeah, we old school football, with new school principles.
Now, just the very last thing there, right? Sorry to make you wait for the 20 seconds leading up to it, but that's the idea, right? Old school football with new school principles. All right, that is the number 3 most intriguing Seahawk. Could have been number 2, maybe even number 1. I think 1 is right, but I kind of went back and forth, vacillating on number 2. And I think when I tell you who it is, you'll understand why I went the way I did, but I did go back and forth. He might be the second most intriguing Seahawk.
Yeah, that'd be a cool T-shirt. This thing gets going and gets humming. Old school football, new school principles.
Yeah, I like the way that sounds.
Number 2.
Yeah, the second most intriguing Seahawk is still Mike Macdonald. I think last year he was number 1. He falls 1 spot because last year he was brand new, but it still feels like so much of this is about learning him and understanding how he wants this team to be. I think we're starting to get it, right? We know he wants them to be more physical than they were last year, more complementary than they were last year. They're supposed to be a defensive football team, but actually executing on that vision, yeah, now we've got to start to see it. He's moved on from some of the players that were maybe more in the Pete camp, Gino, DK, Tyler, right? What does it look like now that you've moved on from some of those old leaders and starting to build some of your own? And I think that's important. John Schneider here on how Macdonald has grown since he's gotten to know him.
I mean, he can just absorb information, and he has a huge brain, and he can go from like 0 to 100 really fast. He can be laughing, about whatever, like something silly, and then he can be super aggressive, like wanting to fight you, and I like that about him. But he's a very clear thinker and a clear communicator. And so I think there's a natural comfort and confidence that comes with standing in front of a team all the time, having a full off season to kind of digest like what you want your team to look like, what you want your culture to look like. And he's been able to really bite into that, and I think express that to the players and his staff and all football operations and the whole building, quite honestly.
Mike Macdonald was hired kind of late last year. He didn't necessarily get the coaching staff around him that he really wanted. There were some compromises made, right? We heard a lot about, hey, we're going to bring in some of the best teachers, but they didn't necessarily have relationships with him or necessarily fit the full vision for what he wanted. Sometimes the first year as a head coach, you have to make a lot of compromise. I don't think there's going to be nearly as many compromises made this year. I think we're going to get much more of the real Mike Macdonald. And Jaron Reed, talking yesterday, explained what makes him such a good coach.
I'll say Mike has all those things. Coach Mike is just a great head coach. He's came in, he's put his standard on us of what he expects from us every day. We bought into that, bringing back the physicality, the old school type of football is what we needed. And I think, the way that he is as a coach is great for us as players and for the team.
I mean, it's good to hear that kind of endorsement from your players, but talking about the old school elements, talking about the physical type of football team that he wants, that I think he felt he was starting to get, at least defensively, by the end of last year, but not as much offensively. And Brock, he's been incredibly vulnerable to go with it. I know you've used that phrase quite a bit to talk about Mike Macdonald. He told us in person, the two of us, that he's essentially taping his team meetings in order to go back with consultants and try to make them be even better.
Yeah, so, we tape it and we get a summary of it and get criticized and areas of improvement and what you did well. And,
the kicker?
Yeah, Hausch, man.
I didn't know that was happening. Did you?
No.
I didn't know Hauschka was here doing that. That's kind of cool.
I mean, they're not here. He's at his house. But
Okay.
They kind of come
Tremendous
back and forth,
ping pong
and they
player.
work with folks in the building and work with me.
That's cool. So it's almost like watching film on yourself and in your role as a leader and communicator.
Right now, I don't have the guts to watch it, so I do like the transcript of it.
I mean, again, I do appreciate some of the vulnerability there, and hey, I don't know it all. I don't have all the answers. I'm still learning the head coaching part of this. And I'm sure that's going to help him get better and better. Last thing here, Brock, and then I know you got a lot to say about Mike Macdonald as well, and that is, to use your word, you've used it really from the moment he's been hired, and that is disruptor. Mike Macdonald was brought here to disrupt what's been happening, especially in this division with the Niners and the Rams, who've both been on a pretty good run here for the better part of the last half decade or so. When Albert Breer was here taking a look at the training camp and came in studio to chat with us, you asked him specifically about Mike Macdonald's ability to disrupt.
Beginning, it's not that way anymore, but at the beginning, they were more or less running like a service academy offense, with Lamar. And the bet there was, okay, you're putting, you're building to play against Patrick Mahomes in the AFC, and you're putting 215-pound linebackers on the field, and you're putting 190-pound safeties in the field. Yep. And you know what? We're coming right at you. Okay. And now they've got like a 260-pound robot at running back to do it, in Baltimore. So I think that, again, that's another thing when Mike Macdonald's roots were, okay, like this is where the league is going. This is where our competition is going. We're going to go over there.
Yeah, we're going to zig when everybody else zags. And I think Brock, that's been one of my favorite things about him.
Yep, everybody else is going to commit all these tens of millions and hundreds of millions to tight ends and wide receivers, and we're going to spend our money on defense. And we're going to try to fortify a line of scrimmage. It's just frankly not been good enough here in Seattle since the championship days. If that's where this thing is going to start, it's where it's going to end. I would add the other word, disruptor, would be number one, no question. But number two, and just listening to players and observing him and being around him, Salk, as we have been around, and what John Schneider had to say. He's a processor. In the elite anythings in life, I really believe this, the elite anythings in life are great processors. They have to listen and absorb information, and then they have to process it faster and better and more efficiently and more creatively than their peers do, whatever industry you are in. And I think he has shown a real aptitude towards that.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't said he's a very good processor. And we haven't really talked about that, but it's important to be a good processor and really listen if you want to be good at anything. And so, yeah, just to finish up, Mike Macdonald, I do think is I'm sorry. Sorry.
You trying to be the Graz? I called you the Graz last hour.
Yeah, exactly. I was just channeling him a little bit more. No, I was just making a little processing joke, Brock. That's all.
Will the real Mike Macdonald please stand up?
I think we'll find out this year. I think we'll find out even more this year. I think by the end of this year, we're going to have a pretty good idea who Mike Macdonald is. I think last year was a nice start to that process, and I feel like by the end of this year, we're going to have a pretty good idea of who Mike Macdonald really is, and that's why he is the second most intriguing Seahawk.
Number one.
God, it could be anybody, really.
Number one.
Yeah, I think if you're going to bring in a new starting quarterback, he's going to be the number one most intriguing Seahawk. It's pretty simple. Number one is Sam Darnold, and I told you I thought about maybe Mike Macdonald. I thought about he was number one last year. I thought about maybe Klint Kubiak, who I think does have a pretty interesting claim to that throne. But he's the new quarterback here in Seattle. He's going to start games, and we've barely had a chance to see him. And oh, by the way, no one really knows exactly what he is. I mean, he's the top 5 pick in the draft. I think he was number 4. He had an awful start to his career with the Jets, but who hasn't? He ends up going elsewhere and some struggles, but then seems to get it together. And he was really good for most of last season in Minnesota. He was an MVP kind of candidate, that type of season. And then it all ended terribly, and it just brought back a lot of old memories of what he was earlier in his career. So who is Sam Darnold? Can you get more out of him? Can he continue to grow, or was last year an aberration caused by having some great weaponry around him and a phenomenal offensive coordinator / coach in Kevin O'Connell? We don't know, but we do know that the Seahawks will likely go about as far as he can take them. Here was Trey Wingo.
That it all depends on Sam Darnold. Unfortunately, in this day and age, you go as far as your quarterback goes. And Sam had an unbelievable year in Minnesota. Of course, he was surrounded by one of the best receiving corps in football and one of the best head coaches for a quarterback to study under. And we'll see if that translates. Obviously, I don't think it helps that DK Metcalf isn't there anymore. And I think this is a very interesting division. I think it's a very, very competitive NFC West.
It is, and Darnold will be the story. That's why he's the number one most intriguing Seahawk. I asked Brady what he's learned this year, and I thought his answer was a good one, that he is a guy that everybody around him likes, that he is a leader that all of the other players want to play with and play for and support. And that does seem to be one of the hallmark differences between him and Geno Smith. I think another is just that, hey, Geno was Pete's guy. And we know that he was talking to Pete whenever things didn't go well last year. It's really hard to get full buy-in from a quarterback as a coach when you've come in and replaced his biggest supporter and maybe his only big supporter in the building. So, Mike Macdonald, what have you learned about Sam Darnold over the last couple of months?
Try not to go in with like expectations. It's like, okay, try to figure him out as a person, get to know him. What I love about Sam is his consistency, the fact that he cares, like, he's always trying to help his teammates. There's cool, like, subtle ways on how he goes about a business that doesn't scream, I'm a superstar quarterback. It just means that he cares about his teammates. He's trying to get it right. He wants the offense to work a certain way. He cares about the precision, how we operate. He cares about the details. Great competitor, but he does it his way, which is cool. You know, it's authentic to him.
And at this stage of his career, he's starting to really know what that way is. I think he's learned a lot about himself. As you know, I've never been too high on Sam Darnold. When he was in college, I was not real sold on what he was at USC. The fumbles always sort of got to me. Obviously, seeing him with the Jets seemed to kind of prove that point, but I think you got to be pretty open to the fact that nobody is really set up for success starting their career with that organization, and what he did last year was eye-opening. I'm excited for him to be the Seahawks quarterback this year, and it is, I think, telling. It's very telling that his teammates have immediately started to support him and gravitate towards him. Jake Bobo was asked about him, and I think that you hear very clearly the respect and the love from one of his wide receivers.
Well, I mean, the cool part about Sammy was since he's got here, he's just kind of been the dude. And obviously there, you call different offenses, call different things differently, is for lack of a better kind of term. So he's had to learn that aspect of it. But ever since, he got here in whatever it was, April, you could tell he had a grasp on what we were trying to do. I don't know if he's been in this, similar schemes in the past, but it seems like he's had it, and he's a guy that I can go to, that Coop can go to, that all the receivers can go to. If we've got a question about what we're trying to do with, different route stems, timing stuff. So to have a guy like Sam, as physically gifted as he is, kind of mentally where he's at right now, has been huge for our growth as an offense.
Yeah, pretty cool. And I think you hear some of that respect of how hard he works and all the things he's done since arriving. As for Sam himself, because I want to make sure you get a chance to hear from him, look, the big question is, what is he? Right? We just said this. Is he the guy he was for 14, 15 games last year? Or is he the guy that he's been for most of the rest of his career? I think he feels like he's got something to prove. He said so in the Get Got podcast.
I don't know about that. No, I don't know about that. I know a lot of people, didn't believe in me. Still don't, which is fine. People are going to have their opinions, but at the end of the day, all that matters is the belief in this building, and the belief I have in myself. And those are the two things that matter to me. And, from what I can tell, that belief is really high.
So all of that leads you to your most intriguing Seahawks, Sam Darnold. I told you the first time I went to go see Seahawks practice, he did not look good. I asked Mike Macdonald whether or not he was definitely the starter.
This is a crazy question.
He did not seem to think it was a very good question. So since then, he's played a lot better, Sam Darnold has, and he is the starting quarterback. He'll be so on Sunday, and we'll see what this looks like. But yes, the most intriguing Seahawk is, of course, the quarterback, the new quarterback, Sam Darnold. There you go. Was there really any doubt? I mean, how could it really be anybody else other than him? Of course.
You're crazy. You're crazy.
You got a dart in your neck. You crazy. Yeah, all right. But you know what was cool? We only have the drop there, but the rest of that answer from Mike Macdonald I thought was another really good, like, hey, look, he'll make some mistakes, but he's learning from it, and we trust him, and we believe in him. And I thought it really was. I know the crazy question part obviously got a lot of attention, but the rest of the answer was a really insightful look into, A, the way Mike Macdonald coaches, and B, how he feels about Sam Darnold. So looking forward to it, man. We're going to get to see this with our own eyes, and if Sam Darnold's really good, this team will probably be really good. And if he's not, then we're going to be having some very interesting conversations at the end of the year about which of these quarterbacks in the draft you think are going to be a great long-term fit for the Seahawks.